Hi, I'm Sarah Rowley. I'm the Senior Product Manager for Issuing here at Cuscal. I'm here today to talk about youth banking. Australians aged between 6 and 22 years old make up the Australian youth banking market. And it's an enormous opportunity for our clients and financial institutions to capture the lifetime value of their customers. Recognising this, we commissioned a piece of work with Visa and Phase 1 Insights to understand more fully this target segment and what the opportunities were for our clients. And I'm here today with Mischewski and Ryan Yuzon to talk more about the research that we underwent and also the key insights. Dawn is from Phase 1 Insights. She's a researcher that's had more than 25 years experience. Dawn, can you give us a headline on what the research was about?
So the lens that we took for the research was really looking at that financial learning journey. So what are the challenges that parents face as they teach their children about money from very young, around 6, right up through their teenage years and when the kids become more independent. So we were very led by the participants themselves. And so we covered a whole range of topics from understanding the concept of money right through to spending, saving and planning for the future.
And how did you conduct the research?
So it was a qualitative approach. We had 25 parent-child pairs split kind of evenly across those age groups. And each pair did 5 activities together and then participated in quite a detailed, in-depth interview.
So Dawn, what were some of the key insights that you thought were fascinating or maybe even a little bit surprising?
Yeah, so where to start? So I think the first thing to say is that it's a really fascinating area. So it was just end-to-end fascinating, and any bank with an eye to its future customer base is going to get a lot of value out of the insights. The big things, I guess, that came out to us was firstly just the scale of the opportunity. As a human-centered researcher, I tend to think about opportunities as being the flip side of challenges. So when I think about the size of an opportunity, I'm thinking, how widespread is this challenge? How important is it for people to solve? And how hard is it for them to solve? And all 3 of those boxes were really ticked in this research when you think about that challenge of teaching your child basic money skill, well, not just basic money skills, but up to some quite sophisticated topics. Financial literacy is relevant really to every parent in the country and every child. So no matter where life takes a child, financial literacy is really the underpinning of their ability to do well in life. So, universal. Second thing is how important is it? And, the stakes are high. If you can't manage your money properly, you're going to struggle to achieve your life goals and your aspirations. So, the parents that we spoke to were really committed to giving their kids a good start in life. Not to say that they knew how to teach their children about money, and not to say that they felt very confident about doing so, but they definitely knew it was a really important thing to do. And then the final thing is that it's really challenging. So, we live in a world now where cash is almost obsolete. Payments are digital. We've got the influence of social media and incredible levels of peer pressure that a lot of the children and young people who participated in the research spoke about themselves, making it very hard for them to make good decisions. So in this really dynamic, changing environment, parents are trying to do something really important, and it's very challenging for them.
Did you find that there were any tricky age groups?
Yes, there were. So one of the things that came through loud and clear was that kind of early teen age group, around 13, 14, 15. We saw really dynamically in the interviews, before the children get to the teens, they were interacting with their parents in the research, talking really animatedly about money, taking lessons from their parents in the course of the conversation. Almost like clockwork, when you hit 13, silence. And this is the age at which the kids are clearly starting to get influenced by money content on social media. And what came through loud and clear was that it's super important for parents to have laid really good foundations that will enable their children to navigate that social media content once they hit that age and the conversations with their parents become much more difficult.
So Dawn, during the research, was there any key messages that came out for financial institutions?
Yeah, look, I think the biggest one is that from the parents' point of view, banks are conspicuous by their absence in this space. So we did a whole activity in the research around, who's on your team as you teach your children about money and build their financial skills. And while I think, probably every parent that we spoke to put the bank as one of their team members, the bank wasn't perceived as being a very effective team member. So yes, the bank stores the money safely and does a great job of those real basic things, but parents were really kind of baffled as to what else the bank was doing to help them teach their kids about money and help them to build their skills and their financial literacy over time. So I think what came out really clearly is that there are any number of opportunities for a bank that really wanted to go down this path, not only in skill building, but also in helping kids to lay foundations early. So we had 14-year-olds who were thinking ahead towards saving a home deposit. There are real opportunities to help that are not necessarily obvious based on what has been done in the past.
Thanks, Dawn. Sounds like the opportunities are far-ranging. There's definitely a knowledge management type of opportunity to help parents have those discussions,
yes,
all the way through to maybe some sort of saving tools, that kind of thing. So
all kinds of things.
Yeah, great. Over to you, Ryan. Ryan is the Senior Director of Visa Consulting Analytics for Australia. And you've got 2 decades experience in the payments.
Something like that.
So the white paper is full of lots of insights, but one of the overriding messages that I'd like to understand from you is that your take on financial literacy and financial inclusion in that order. There are about 5.5 million Australians in the 6 to 22 age group, and that represents an opportunity for financial institutions of $825 billion. So this is an enormous opportunity for financial institutions. I'd like to understand how financial literacy plays a role in that, and what are your thoughts on that?
Okay. So building financial literacy in the younger generation is critical, and the most important part of that is to start early. So if you think about financial education and literacy now, it seems that back when you and I were kids, it was very event-based and tangible, right? So you would take your coins and your bills and put them in the piggy bank or in a jam jar and watch those savings accumulate. When it was time to go and buy your favorite toy, you would pull out those funds, you would go to the store and buy it. So again, it's something you can touch and feel, right? There's the money, I spend it at the store and I don't have it anymore, my jam jar is empty. Nowadays though, it's all electronic. So there's no more coins and bills pretty much. The kids can't see those funds grow and accumulate, and they don't see it when the funds are spent. So my 7-year-old thinks that money is unlimited. We go to the store, and I say, oh, did you bring your money? And he says, I don't have any money. It's in your phone. So all of a sudden, it's an unlimited source of funds that I can just tap on my phone. So parents, I think, are struggling to understand, well, how do I teach my child that money is actually not unlimited? You need to save it responsibly so that you can spend it responsibly. So in this financial literacy journey, I think financial institutions have a great role to play, and they need to decide on 3 things. First of all, it's how to talk to young people about saving, spending, and financial literacy. You wouldn't talk to a 30 or 40-year-old in the same way you would talk to a 20-year-old or a teenager or a 6-year-old about how to save and how to spend money. So you need to adjust that tone of voice, the messages that you're imparting onto these different segments. The second then is you need to build products and experiences that then help to engage the different segments of the youth demographic. Those products have to be able to engage them in a fun way, maybe some gamification, some rewards to get them to want to start saving and understand what that means. Thirdly, then, and Dawn, you talked about it a lot, is the changing needs of these youth segments means that you need to have a strategy to evolve these products and capabilities and experiences so they change when the segment needs change as well. So when you're very young, mom and dad help you to spend your money responsibly through some card controls, but when you're 20 years old, you don't want your mom seeing what you're buying at the store, right? So it's got to evolve over time. Ultimately, younger customers need to feel supported and understood along this financial journey, and they must see your bank or your financial institution as a trusted brand partner along that journey.
Thank you, Ryan. So financial inclusion is actually a critical output of financial literacy. So how would you define financial inclusion?
At Visa, financial inclusion means that people and businesses are able to access secure, convenient, and affordable payment and other financial services and use them to meet everyday needs and long-term goals. And this especially applies to the younger generation. So we need to make sure that they feel included in the financial services realm in helping them understand how to save money and spend money. The earlier you get these young people into the financial system, the better then you can help educate them along that journey so that they find your brand to be a partner as they grow from very young children up into older adults that might become more profitable for the bank, and they start having lending products and mortgages to really capitalize on that lifetime value of the customer. Trust and familiarity with your brand is very important, so you need to be able to provide experiences that they feel supported and trust in the brand in order to bring them into that banking realm. And again, the last point on that is that we really need to focus on that evolution of their needs, so make sure to bring them in early and then tailor your products to them as they grow.
So Ryan, thanks, that was really insightful. So what talking points do you believe the paper offers financial institutions when thinking about their strategies and developing the right messages and engagement for Australia's youth segment?
So I think there's a big opportunity for financial institutions to come up with deliberate strategies to target these youth segments and even the sub-segments within. So we talked about the range from 6-year-olds to 22-year-olds. And I think in the paper it's divided into 4 or 5 sub-segments, each with different needs. Financial institutions today, as Dawn said, don't really have a presence in financial literacy beyond setting up the account for children. They might do some branding, they might have some cards with youthful images on them, but beyond setting up the account, there's not a lot of ongoing education or support. So we believe that the insights in this paper and in this research will help to inform a strategy then that can hone in on each of the sub-segments to understand, well, what are those needs along that spectrum and how do they change over time? So you would target a 6-year-old, very different, as I said, from a 22-year-old. You have to tailor the content to each of those segments. Make sure that it is targeted toward kids, but also importantly for their parents. So parents, I think, are struggling to figure out, well, how do I educate my 7-year-old? How do I give some control up and let my 15-year-old figure out themselves? What are the right messages at the right time that I should be imparting to my kids? So it's not a one-size-fits-all strategy anymore. You really need to come up with these products, functions, and features that can change over time as the customers change over time as well.
And in terms of changing over time, are there any critical points along the age spectrum where there's danger points for attrition?
So we find that there starts to be sort of a danger point or an inflection point at around 16 or 17 when these children start to get their first jobs and they start earning real money. So all of a sudden then they're paying attention to the interest rate, optimizing that interest rate for this money that is actually mine and close to my heart. Can I shop around and find a better rate? So in the journey up to that inflection point, then if you can start to build some brand loyalty and affinity, maybe it's not as easy for them to swap it out because they've been included in the system. They've started to say, this is my banking app, this is my bank, this is my provider. So there's some stickiness that can be built there as well.
And what do you think are the specific opportunities, going back to the earlier age group, for financial institutions to provide support to parents for those early discussions?
So one of the interesting things that came out of the research, Dawn, as you recall, is that the parents' involvement kind of comes in and out, right? So when the kids are very little, the parents have a big influence on what the kids understand about financial services. At 13 or 14, they tend to start to pull away. The parents don't have as much control. You kind of have to let the bird fly out of the nest. Yeah. Then the dark years, right? Then they disappear between 15 and 18 maybe.
Then they come back asking for a loan.
That's right. So then they come back, and then the parent has a bit more influence and say in the matter. So you kind of have to understand that flow, that ebb and flow of influence of the parents and who's really influencing the kids as they go through this journey. To your question, on the younger side of the spectrum, then I think it's really all about getting the fundamentals down. So understanding, well, how do you save money? Why do you save money? When you spend money, it goes away. You can't use it anymore. It's not unlimited in daddy's phone. So it's just building those fundamentals around spending and saving. And ideally, you can start to build this affinity toward a banking app or a card. So if you have a card with an image on it for kids, maybe they start to say, well, this is my card. Daddy, mommy's helping me, but this is my money. You start to build that ownership that then carries through as they get older.
And how important is the digital experience for these young customers who have only ever known their phone in the way to, basically engage with the world?
Totally. So, yeah, when we think about how to develop these products for these kids, we talk about digital natives, right? So these kids, as you say, it's all they've ever known is the internet and the iPad and phones and things. So find that these solutions and products have to be digital first. You put a game in front of my 7-year-old and he'll forget to eat for 2 days. So it's all about on the phone, what's on the iPad, getting them involved in that, and then using that as a channel for communication and for education. So having, I talked about gamified experiences, so having challenges within a banking app even to help them learn about saving or growing their money.
And it's that tone of voice that you said before, which is really key.
That's right.
In getting that engagement right from the get-go, isn't it?
I think actually it's pretty hard because older people like us might have a bit of a challenge getting to the mindset of these very young children. So it's important to be able to speak to these people in their own language, in their own tone of voice. You speak to a 6 or 7-year-old very differently than you would to a 22-year-old. One of the examples in the paper actually was with UpBank. So UpBank does a great job in adopting that tone of voice for the customers they're going after. So they have spend categorization, but they've adopted this language to say instead of alcohol, it's booze. Instead of music events, it's gigs, right? So trying to get into the mindset of those customer segments, it's not an easy thing to do, but it's something they need to do in order for it to resonate and with the customers, and so you can get them to engage.
So what are the key insights that you would like our clients to take away from the paper today?
So just to summarize, there's 4 things to keep in mind in developing solutions for the younger generation. The first we've mentioned already, which is around digital first. So digital natives, all they've known is the internet and their iPads or their phones. So it has to be digital first. Even more specifically then, it is better if it is app-based. So these kids have grown up, it's all about downloading apps, whether it's games or other functions that they need. You download an app, and that becomes then an opportunity to build affinity with that app, right? This is my banking app. This is where I keep my money. Third is that the products have to be specifically designed for kids and teens. That comes through not only in the tone of voice and the color and the branding, but also the experience. So we find that things that are engaging for kids are good. So gamification, so make a game out of it. Rewards, so make it a journey or a challenge and you get rewarded in some way. Chore tracking, so a lot of kids have chores to do. You can reward them for chores and track it within the app. Notifications and nudges, so we want to be able to encourage the right behaviors. So why not have a notification that says, hey, you just got paid, put X amount of dollars or a certain percentage into your savings account, or here's how much you spent in a certain category or a merchant in the last month, to really just bring that responsible spending to top of mind. And then as far as the product design goes as well, the last thing is parental controls. So as we mentioned, the need for parental controls changes over time, but you might build in stricter controls when they're very young in terms of categories or amounts, and then be able to turn those off or relax those as they get older so that mom and dad aren't watching every penny you spend. The last thing then is educational resources for kids and importantly for their parents. You need to be able to make sure that you speak to the kids at the right time with the right messages. You need to give the tools to the parents to be able to impart those messages to their kids at the same time. Those would be the 4 key messages, I would say.
Thank you so much to both of you today. That's been incredibly insightful. From the sounds of things, the view has to be of lifetime value when it comes to looking at this segment. And it does look like there are definitely different strategies for each age cohort that you've talked with. But there does seem to be those common themes that you've pointed out that need to be considered in every financial institution's strategy in this space. Definitely giving them the opportunity to realise the financial potential for their institutions as a result. Thank you.
Thank you.